aftermaths of the Chris Christie Bridgegate scandal. Governor Cuomo and the New York State government have formed a new student protection unit to investigate debt relief companies and educate college students to make wiser decisions with their student loans. Our Hunter Sines is here with more.
Thanks, Anna. When it comes to applying for student loans, many students can become vulnerable to scams and misconceptions since they may not know what they're getting into. We went to see what students really know about their own loans and what they think about Governor Cuomo's new efforts.
I knew that the interest rate would definitely, kick my butt when I get out of college, but I also knew with the plan that my parents are doing, the interest rate wouldn't be as high. So therefore, I pretty much know what I'm getting into. I have about $8,000 in student loans, but I know that I'm going to pay them off after.
Because at the moment, their parents are handling everything, and they have no idea how they're going to go about it in the future once it's their responsibility fully.
I'm hoping to get a job and just start paying those off in increments when I can, but I don't have any concrete plans, obviously, because I'm only a junior, so I don't know what I'm doing after graduation at the moment.
I think that since tuition and room and board prices are obviously so high, a lot of students kind of just pile on loans for the sake of it because they really don't have any other options, and after graduation is when it gets tricky managing that, so that's definitely always good to educate yourself as to what you're getting yourself into.
I think that's a good thing because, like my friends, a lot of them are misinformed and they don't really know how to go about the whole paying off loans or even just getting loans process. So for the government to be looking out for them and making sure that they're not being swindled, I think that's amazing.
Just because I'm lucky enough that my parents help me out, so I know that they're looking out for me in my best interest, but I know that not everyone has that benefit, so I think it'd be a really great program for people who could be easily taken advantage of by those loan companies.
The Student Protection Unit is already underway and hopes to reduce the amount of extra fees debt companies charge. Anna?
Right, Hunter, so this is a big issue for students. I mean, right when we graduate, it's huge. This debt we have to pay off, and it's important to pay attention to it. Can you tell us a little bit about, give us an example of one of these scams?
Yeah, such fees that these debt collectors are trying to charge is consolidation fees. So if a student takes out different loans each semester, at the end, when he's starting to pay those back, he might want to combine them all into one. Well, some debt companies are going against the consumer protection laws and are breaking those laws and adding fees to that, and that's exactly what this unit is out to get.
And the government actually does that for you for free. So
yes.
That's another thing that was mentioned.
Definitely.
Perfect. Thank you, Hunter. When we come back, we'll be joined in studio by senior correspondent John Tomino to talk about President Obama's relationship with Congress. And we'll also talk about the changes on immigration reform, or the chances of immigration reform passing this year. All that when Talking Points comes back.
Small town of Elmira, New York. A boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Hey, I'm Anderson Cooper. As a parent, you want to make sure that your child knows how to deal with bullying when they see it happening. And chances are they want to help, but they don't really know how. I'll teach them that the best thing to do is calmly walk away, find a teacher or other adult, and speak up. And do your part. Be that adult they can talk to and trust will listen. Join me to help stop bullying. Go to stopbullying.gov to find out more.
Welcome back. Up first on our agenda, we're going to be talking about President Obama's, recent decision to use executive action. Joining us now is our senior correspondent, John Tomino. All right, John. So we saw in the State of the Union, Obama came out and flat out said, "Yep, he's going to use executive action," which is a tool the president can use to basically take action directly without going through Congress. So can you tell us a little bit, John, what is he planning here?
Well, I think what's a really important quote is Norm Ornstein is a scholar at the conservative think tank American Empire Institute, and he said, what we're going to see this year is Obama the realist replacing Obama the idealist. This guy, President Obama's been fighting for the past 5 years to make sure that his agenda could get passed through, and he's had to deal with a whole lot of congressional roadblocks, and the fact that the Republicans are always trying to shoot down what he's doing. So at this point, what he's trying to do is take back the executive. He's trying to say, I'm in charge. This is my administration, and I'm going to take the steps necessary to pass through what I need to. Now, if you're looking at some of the executive orders that he's talking about, this isn't necessarily groundbreaking in a sense. It's important, but it's not health care, which is at this point his signature, accomplishment for his presidency. But what he wants to do, really, especially coming off a year in 2012, 2013, where he didn't really do too much. He was really stalemated in a lot of ways, and he's got to make it seem as if he's moving forward. He's doing something for the American people. Like yesterday when he was signing the executive action to raise the minimum wage for federal contract workers.
Right. That's one of his first executive actions. He mentioned that in State of the Union.
Now, if you're looking at what he did there, he came in yesterday when he was filming with all these statistics about this is so important. It needs to go up from 725 to 1010. It's going to boost the economy. It's going to make things better. Didn't really talk as much about the executive order itself. But I think what he really wants to do here is he's trying to signal to Congress, this is good. Now let's do it for everybody. Because if you look at the scope of this, it's going to affect relatively few workers at first because it only applies to new contracts or renewed contracts. It doesn't apply to anything former. So eventually some people are saying it's going to affect several 100,000 workers. But in the, we're talking about millions in the case if Congress were to approve it. So he's limited in the scope of what he can do by executive action. It's really trying to get Congress on board with everything he's doing.
That's what I wanted to point out too. Executive action, this has been getting a lot of attention. Even the word executive action, it sounds very official, but Obama's limited in what he can really do with those. It's not something sweeping that affects, it does affect millions, it can, especially with this minimum wage increase.
Paul Ryan was said, he was very critical of this, of course. He says we have an increasingly lawless policy where he actually is doing the job of Congress, writing new policies and new laws without going through Congress, to which Jay Carney, of course, Obama's press secretary, retorted, any president who doesn't take advantage of the powers to the presidency to move the country forward would be depriving himself of the capacity to move it forward and grow the economy further. If you look at President Obama in his first term, he really didn't use that many executive orders. He had 168 signed, 13 of them last year. And, compared to in the first term of some other four presidents, George W. Bush, 173. Bill Clinton was 200. Reagan, 213. These are all a lot higher up. And if you're looking at some of the executive orders that Obama was passing, like last year, prohibiting certain imports of Burmese jadeite and rubies, improving chemical facility safety and security, these are obscure. They're really obscure. They're not. He hasn't really passed anything massive through an executive order. So there's no precedent to fear as if he's trying to take over the presidency and make this weird, where he just disobeys what Congress wants.
So, if a lot of this, John, would you agree, it's politics? I mean, as we've discussed, the executive action isn't some big deal. Banning Burmese imports of rupees or U.S. imports of Burmese rupees is no big deal. But especially in the highly politicized atmosphere we have in politics, is this executive action being used as a tool? Are Republicans using it as a tool maybe to hurt Democrats?
Well, I think they're trying to say that Obama is just not. He's not the president who's going to abide by the laws. They're trying to say we're Congress. You elected us here to do things for us, and they're not getting translated through to the executive. But what he's trying to do at this part is it's really twofold. He's got his own legacy to worry about at this point because he's not going to be president again. But also the Democrats as a party have to worry about themselves. So that if Republicans in 2016 are going to say, well, Democrats couldn't do anything. Democrats didn't get the job done. The Democrats want to counter and say, well, you know what, we couldn't because you guys weren't letting us. So at this point, that's the battle that's taken on stage, especially with midterm elections coming up, where Republicans could take the Senate, strengthen their numbers in Congress, and then really just gridlock that we've never seen before.
Right, Son. So part of the reason President Obama decided to use executive action because of his frustration. You know, he feels like his major initiatives aren't getting passed, and moving again. A big one of that is immigration reform.
Yes.
It just goes. That's a whole other issue. There, the president has shown his frustration with that not being even taken up by the House. There was a comprehensive immigration bill passed in the Senate, and it didn't make it to the House. So that's, so far, what about immigration this year, John? Is there a chance for it to be on the table?
It's funny because you're looking at a president who's been elected twice and campaigned twice to say that I'm going to figure out this immigration quandary that we're in, and he hasn't. Now he's optimistic, and he said that Boehner's going to work something out this year. But what Boehner said recently is, quote, "Listen, there's widespread doubt about whether this administration can be trusted to enforce our laws." What he means by that is Obama's not going to listen to what Congress has enacted. He's just going to more executive orders, and he's going to do things like that. That's the real worry that we're looking at here. I think that if there is going to be any immigration reform this year, it's not going to be sweeping. It's not going to be something like the Senate bill. It's going to be slowly, piecemeal, kind of one here, one there, dink and dunk.
Exactly. Senate Republicans have talked about making this piecemeal. No big comprehensive thing. They kind of want that as a safeguard so some big generalized plan doesn't pass. And, just to break it down, the two big issues here are path to citizenship and border security. Republicans are arguing completely against a path to citizenship, which they view as amnesty, and are emphasizing that border security, which the Democrats are kind of saying, well, we need that path to citizenship first. So the big emphasis on border security here. What is the main Republican position on that?
Well, John Boehner laid it all out on the table. He had he took out an op-ed, like a preamble and like the position of all this. They want really tightened border security and enforcement measures. They want President Obama to kind of abandon this this path for the 11 million immigrants that we're looking at in the United States right now. So Boehner, from sources, Yahoo News reporting that Boehner wants to get this deal done, but he's the head of his party, and he can't show weakness in the face of the president. He can't back down to these challenges, especially in the face of the really conservative Republicans in Congress.
And midterms coming up this year already. So, it's really,
there's a lot of talk of kicking the can down the road, but here's the issue with that. If you wait till after the midterm elections to broach the subject of immigration, the Democrats can use it as a chip against the Republicans by saying they don't want to do this, we can't do this, but we're going to elect a president in 2017 that will do it. Now, Republicans who may want to do it after the election are kind of saying, it's not as much that, it's just that we want to wait until President Obama's out of office because we think that we're going to have a better compromise than we will with President Obama.
Exactly. Again, John, here, the big issue is border security. Republicans really want to beef that up. There's been proposals of doubling the amount of Border Patrol officers we have down on our southern border. So it's one of those issues that a big comprehensive